Konnichiwa, fellow armchair general samas. This is Gamer 1745 here with my continuing playthrough of Hearts of Iron 3 with Black Ice 9.11, and of course we're playing as Germany. Let's look here. We were attacked. This is a city, I believe, of some sort. Okay, urban center. Okay, we could attack from two provinces at once and not across the river and screw with these guys some. How do these guys do in cities? Urban attack plus 45. Okay, so that would be a good unit to attack into there with. And these guys, specialized. Urban attack plus 50. So yeah, these guys will do good, and these guys will support their attack. Sounds like a plan to me. Okay, they're across, well, they're almost across the river, and they are across the river. You guys push into there. You're getting reinforcements very soon. Couple of pockets still need to basically die up here, but yeah, they are going down. And yeah, now that they've got some more support, yeah, I'm gonna support that attack. And that changes the odds considerably. The Soviets, we would give them money for crude oil. Okay, 15 money. No, way too big. Way too big. You want to buy supplies though? No, okay. Does Britain want to buy any supplies? Oh, there we go. Buy 4? Sure, there we go, that's good. That only helps in a minor way, but still hopeful. No, thank you. Oh good, that's basically one. Okay guys, you come down this way, you come down this way, you come down, well, at least to there. Okay, you're coming up to there. It looks like you're doing alright battling those tanks that are fleeing. Now let's attack into those guys. Okay, well, we did lose that. Didn't get there in time, but looks like they've won their counterattack. When will they be able to attack again? 33 hours, alright. Oh good, okay, we've got another port, and maybe more importantly we've got an air base down there. Let's see. Okay, these guys have got to be. How big is this air base here? Oh, pretty big, okay. You guys come down here. You guys come here. And I guess you guys, well, yeah, they probably have a bit shorter legs, so you come down here. You guys go there to occupy, and what's the name of this province? Haikou. Haikou? 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 We'll go straight from Tokyo to, yes, wanted to make sure it was there, not just grab whatever was on the bottom of the thing. Make sure that we have, oh no, here, some more supplies coming into this area, because this port isn't, well, it's reasonably good size, but more supply potential, the better. Okay, attritional warfare has advanced, very good, and we're going to let that go. Okay, you guys, you jump back into that fighting. A lot of units there. Oh, you're here now. Great. Okay, you support that attack. Oh, good. Now, let's give this... Thought I remembered a few good sort of supply, like maybe you, or... Ah, you. There we go. That's good. And... There. Okay. You needed an HQ. Well, you're Marine, so we're going to keep you, I think, with... You need an HQ as well. Yeah, I think that's sort of a good path. Because I really would love to take Guangzhou. Just need it, but I'd also love to take that. Okay, well, we are getting these guys. Now let's send you this way, and you this way. You guys start attacking into there. I think that's the plan. Okay, Good, we've won there. Anti-tank upgrades, very good. Again, we're facing a few light tanks, so it's not an issue now, but of course, the Japanese really sucked in anti-tank warfare in World War II. Don't know why that is. I mean, it could just be as simple as we don't have the production capacity. I mean, that it could be as simple as they didn't have the production capacity. Because there were a bunch of border incidents and one sort of largest sort of border incident battle with the Soviets. And then they were, mostly I've seen them facing BT, I think 7s, but maybe BT 5s tanks. The Japanese definitely took some out, because I've definitely seen photos of like a pair of BTs with a bunch of Japanese standing all over them, and, you know, with a few flags, and doing this sort of arms up bonsai type cheer. So, you know, we know they took a few out, and a decent field artillery piece hitting a light or medium pre-war, we'll call it, tank will knock it out if it's a good hit on it. And maybe that's just all they thought they needed, but still, you know, notice I'm using the term field artillery. A field artillery, something that eventually sort of, in a practical, well, no, it's still around by the end of the war. We've been looking into some of this stuff. The U.S. did, they had both sort of regular howitzers, 105 millimeter howitzers, and they were with the, I think artillery regiments of a division or brigade. And then they had 105 millimeter guns that were shorter and lighter, shot the same round, but they were with the infantry battalions, and they were used more as field artillery, and it's more of a use case in some instances, as well as instead of a design case. Field artillery doesn't belong to the artillery. At least that would be the traditional idea of it. I know the British Army through the history the best, because the American Army at different times almost goes away. You know, when the American Civil War happens, there's hardly a U.S. Army. Now, they had just had the Mexican-American War not that long before, and there's definitely Army units, but there are a lot of sort of frontier type units and that kind of stuff, as well as a lot of state militia and state guard types of stuff. But the idea, and they, you know, there's always, you know, at some point, and I don't want to say always, but, you know, there's the West Point and the officer corps, and there's always some, you know, at some point, a core group, but it doesn't stay around as a huge, significant, persistent organization. It sort of comes and goes. I mean, they're almost building it from nothing when they're setting up for World War I. Now, again, there's a lot of state units. A lot of the state units have a continuous history going back to before the American Civil War, through the American Civil War, on through and into this day. And nowadays it's you know, a bit different, but a lot of the state units had been very much state units, meaning the state bought the guns, you know, the rifles. The state bought any artillery that they might have had. and with no necessarily regard to what the National Army was using as in calibers. They might buy something entirely different. Sometimes that's a corruption play. Some armaments company or armament seller, not necessarily a company, but a person, bribe somebody. Hey, buy a bunch of my rifles. I'll give you a kickback if you buy my rifles. And it wasn't even necessarily a thought, did these match up with what the federal government gives us or would have for a supply thing? No, this is just sort of like, hey, we need some state troops in case there's a riot. And, a riot in America may easily go to being an armed conflict because America has lots of guns. So, America, it's a bit different. Where Britain, we have a longer persistent army. So the Royal Artillery was its own thing. And sort of a subdivision, I think, working out, was the Royal Engineers. Sort of depends on when we're talking and whatnot. And they had their own categories. But both of those two units, and particularly or in the early stages, the Royal Engineers would have little or no command authority. They might be a major, and, well, no field command authority. No one in their right mind would, there could be Lieutenant so-and-so who has never been in a war, isn't going to take commands from Major so-and-so who's been in 6 wars, because Major so-and-so of, say, the Royal Engineers doesn't know how to give the commands to, say, form a square. I forget what movie it was I saw dealing with, years and years ago, dealing with the American Army pre Civil War, going through West Point or something. And it was, give the commands to form a square. And so the cadet immediately starts, Company A, turn to the right. Company B, face forward. Company C, left wheel forward, and he's going through all of the commands that tells a battalion or whatever, to form the square. It's not just form square, it's this company does this company does that, this company starts marching to the, to get around, to get to, in an orderly and not in a jumbled way, forming a square. And it is a complicated set of maneuvers to go from a marching column, and they probably specified this, a marching column to a square versus a line of battle, everybody facing in one, maybe 2 or 3 ranks deep, but going in one direction as facing the enemy to form a square. And so you had to have this training. And so Lieutenant X, who's never been in a war and maybe 15 years old, he presumably knows how to take a company, a battalion, or whatever, knows the orders to form a square, where the engineering officer, who's been in a lot of wars, may know how to do that, but isn't expected to know how to do it. But he knows how to blow up a wall, around a fortified city, or, he knows how to, he's an engineer. And so he gets all the respect of an officer and would be treated as a superior officer by the lieutenant. But if it was in a combat sort of situation, nobody is expecting the engineering officer to know how to fight a battle. Obviously, I've highly skewed that, and probably the engineering officer probably would be taking over, but it depends where, what, and of course the engineering officer may have been in the engineers all the time and never made it to a war, because even though he was in the army in the wars in Britain, he never got deployed overseas. He was doing engineering stuff in Britain, so he may be entirely ignorant of how to command troops in a line battalion, where his command of troops, and would often have regular troops turned over to him to dig the saps and the parallels going up to a fortified enemy town or castle or whatever, and doing all that. He knows his stuff. Okay, that's sort of what the Royal Artillery is, but much more of a combat field organization. And so the Royal Artillery is its own separate thing. Oh, and you can't move in the old 18th century. Can't is a bit hard, but there is no idea of moving from an artillery officer to an infantry officer. It is a paid commission thing, so I guess you sort of kind of could. But I do believe in the Royal Artillery there were no paid commissions, nor the engineers. So you could pay to get into a line regiment, I guess. But they have a completely different track of promotion, completely different commands, a different corps of soldiers. If you're in the artillery, it's a whole different world that's in the regular army, and you may be marching along with the on the same column, but you're almost in a different world, a different command structure, a different way of doing things between the Royal Artillery and the British Army. And notice I'm sort of using the British Army, even though they're both part of the British Army. But field artillery, often called battalion guns, were generally light field pieces. So you can see, particularly in India, at times they had sort of fairly big full-size artillery pieces that were guns that were generally, because in the 18th century and before, and depends on when you're talking 19th century, Napoleonic Wars, definitely post-Napoleonic Wars, it starts to fade away. The colonel of the regiment buys the regiment, basically. He owns the regiment. He buys it from the government. And basically it's buying his colonelcy of a regiment. And this is why colonel still has this sort of weird cachet even to this day, because a colonel isn't just a rank. And today it is in most armies. In the British Army, I think you can be a colonel, and then you can be a colonel of the regiment. You will often see this in, like, Princess Margaret's own Highlanders or something. I don't know. I don't think she has a Highland regiment. She is the Princess Margaret, who's sister of the Queen. I think I have that all right. Is the colonel. And I know there's at least one or more units that are hers. She is the colonel of that regiment. She is technically in charge of that regiment. Now, of course, she has no military experiences. She never went to any military stuff. She only knows how to get on that horse and sort of do the parade stuff that you'll periodically see her reviewing the troops. There are still that kind of colonelcies outside of the royal family within the British regimental system, though I do think it is still sort of fading away. But, and he sort of goes back to is the idea, not in any modern sense now, but in the idea that that colonel owns the regiment, and that colonel gets a monthly or maybe yearly payment from the government. Oh, we're paying you, $100,000 a year. Obviously it's Britain, so it's pounds and probably less. But we're paying you that. Okay. The government hands him his money every year. It's probably done on a yearly basis. And then the colonel takes that, is supposed to, the idea of take that money and then, pay for the needs of the regiment. Now, a soldier bought his own uniform back then, basically had it deducted from his pay. In the modern American army, the officers, not the enlisted, but the officers still pay for their own uniforms, but they get a uniform allowance. So if it gets torn, it gets ripped up. There is some compensation if it's like coming from active duty service, especially a deployment overseas. There's I don't know the details, but there's some of that kind of stuff in it. But they don't just give you a uniform every year or every whatever. They give you an allowance and you go buy it. Now you can go, and I don't know if Brooks Brothers still does this, but back in World War II and before, you could go to Brooks Brothers, the sort of high-end tailor, I don't know much about them, and have them make you your uniforms for the Navy, for the Army, and they would make, within, maybe just barely within regulations, a uniform that was very well tailored and had sort of superior level of cloth and clothing, though the colors would match perfectly with all the rest of the officers in your unit. So they're using the right type of dyes and stuff, but just maybe the wool or whatever, the wool cloth was just a slightly higher quality, and it's more tailored cut to you, and it's just a superior uniform. So if you want to be, and there's a really great picture of General MacArthur during World War I, I think, sort of lounging in a high back chair, indoors, but wearing his cap, in what is obviously a barely regulation dress uniform, because MacArthur, as you can probably know, always was a bit of a dandy, and so he has a highly tailored uniform that's very stylish. It fits the styles of the rest of the uniforms at the time, the American uniforms at the time, except for his cap is a bit more of the, I don't know, vertical type, but so and so that all of the uniforms would be a private purchase, but his are from a superior tailor and that kind of thing. So that's the American tradition, is the officers do. The enlisted get uniforms given to them at a basic rate. Well, in the 18th century, basically the soldiers paid for most of their equipment, though there was issuances that weren't paid for, and it gets complicated too. But the idea of, like, say, the muskets for an infantry regiment was bought by the colonel. Now, definitely by the beginning of the 18th century, they have to meet certain sets of patterns, meaning they're going to be of a certain general caliber, though there's variations in the muskets caliber. They'll all load the standard ammo, but meaning the diameter does fluctuate a little bit. But they'll all be tower pattern muskets. Now there's different tower patterns. The tower is in Tower of London, but they'll all be tower pattern muskets. And so the colonel buys and owns the muskets for his regiment. Now his regiment could be a 2 battalion, a 1 battalion. I think they made it up to, in peacetime, 4 battalions for some of the guards units, but the colonel pays for the muskets. So he can go out and buy trash. He can go out and buy 50-year-old, banged up, hardly functional muskets and give them out to his troops. And the savings he gets to keep. Now, if he then needs to take this unit to actually go fight in a war, that's a problem. Now, of course, most of the time, most of the British regiments were at peace in Britain. So you often do get the case of, oh, there's a war breaking out. Colonel, who's often a very rich person, and has for many years been pocketing it. And it was designed, the idea is that you were paying him more than what he would spend on the unit. So he was supposed to get a profit margin on it, but others were either greedy or whatnot. And so he, if he gets told that one of his battalions or whatever is getting deployed overseas, they go make a purchase of a bunch more muskets and things like that to get them up to proper functioning. Rarely are they actually deployed overseas in poor condition. Now, maybe the colonel is smart, because I do know a few times that inspectors would come out and realize what poor state the troops were in and decide that this unit isn't ready for sending overseas. So maybe the colonel is right in giving the unit really poor equipment so that they don't get killed being sent overseas to, sent to America to fight the Americans during the Revolution or whatever war. So maybe there's actually a good strategy to that. But so the colonel owns the regiment. The colonel, in a way, sort of does, sort of doesn't control who gets to be the officers. Gets to control all of that. Now the colonel, if he so wishes, can buy artillery. Often it was 2 guns, and they would be part of his unit. I know this is sort of taken a while to get here, but he would own them. They would be part of his unit. Some of the basic line troops would, instead of being line troops, would be now you're loading and shooting this artillery piece. And they had manuals, and they often probably found a keen officer who wants to read the manual and figure out how to shoot the artillery piece and figure that out. But they're never really doing high mathematics of trajectories and long range shooting. It wasn't meant to be that way. It was meant to sort of put on normally the two guns together, but could be one on each end of the battalion, and shoot more rounds at the enemy. When it's at longer range, shooting solid shot at them, cannonballs, or closer range, it was normally grape shot, or it was normally canister. Grape shot is normally coming out of ships. They're bigger balls. Grape shot canister is normally musket balls. So they're like big super shotguns. Now, a lot of commanders of armies, groups of battalions, disliked it because they would keep those guns with the unit, and so you had horses and or men towing these fairly light guns around and their wagon full of ammunition, and it really slows them up from maneuvering fast and well. So at times they were sort of forbidden to have their artillery, even if that battalion had artillery with them, just to keep them handy and moving around the battlefield efficiently and redeploying and deploying. But so that's field artillery for you. Field artillery comes out of the idea of battalion guns, or guns that belong to an infantry organization, versus the artillery, which comes out of the artillery park. Basically, a park is where you park things, not a modern day park that you go play with your dog in, but a park could be anywhere. It could be in the middle of the street, wherever you decide the artillery park is, that you park all the artillery guns and wagons. They also like a tank park or whatever, but coming out of that, and is owned and operated by the Royal Artillery. So pretty quickly, or in a modern sense, artillery guns have disappeared entirely into either mortars or their artillery pieces from the howitzers of the field of what's often called the field artillery, as opposed to the siege artillery, as opposed to something else. But it gets complicated in that different armies have different nomenclatures at different times, and that kind of thing. Meaning the U.S. Army may be calling it one thing, while the British Army is calling something else. And of course, others. Oh, we must have had something deployed. Oh, good. We have now good landing craft, and a bunch of them. We're going to build, I think, a couple more of these infantry divisions. Let's move those down. These are going to go to some of these HQs here. I think they will continue to be useful later on. We have another. Let's build. I know we'll actually re-get some of those back, but let's build some mountain divisions. Again, as I've talked about, Japan really didn't have but these are only 6,000 men, so didn't really have any official mountain units. Okay, let's look. Marsh attack is negative 45, pretty bad. Urban attack is negative 55. Jungle attack is pretty bad. That ain't good. But I'm sort of looking, depending on conditions, we very well may be fighting in Yunnan still by the time they, which is almost entirely mountains. By the time they get built, we may even still be fighting there, may even still be fighting back up in here as China gets more and more mountainous. And then I'm also thinking about Burma, which there is no terrain called mountain jungles. And I talked in with way back before Hoi 4 was released, and the idea of having multiple terrain types in one province, like mountains and jungles. Their sort of solution is well, if you really think it's that important, create a unique terrain type, not train, but terrain type of mountain jungles, that has a lot of the, has, I don't know, the heat and a lot of the jungle elements of the jungle, and mountain elements without necessarily compounding, because some of the elements of compounding here of movement rate. See, I would say a mountain jungle would be slower to move through than just mountains, and slower to move through than just jungle. But I don't know how much you might not totally stack all the attack and defense penalties or something like that. But so you can in this just create a mountain jungle type thing and then set that up. So I'm also thinking about this for like Burma, and even down in here we do have mountains and jungles. So looking here, we have that, and mountain attack plus 45 now. Specialized light infantry over here. Okay, their mountain attack sucks pretty bad, but they got very good jungle. Okay-ish desert. Where's urban attack? Probably just, oh, right there, negative 15. Okay, so what I think we're going to do is, and I want to have these guys first, we're going to do sort of a bit of an Uber division here. So mountain attack is now just plus 2.5% because the specialized light infantry isn't very good. But it's sort of balancing out a bunch of different things. Fort attack is good, urban attack isn't so bad. So yeah, mountain defense is great. We can hold the mountain, it looks like forever almost. So that looks good. Okay. That looks good. We're going to do pack artillery, which now helps a bit more. It's going to be weaker artillery than regular, but it does help, as you can see, with the mountain attack. That kind of thing. I guess just horse transport. Now, recon cavalry, which is now making things a bit worse, but it would anyways. What about, yeah. I think we're going to go with armored cars. Give them a little bit of hardness. Yeah. I'm sort of liking that a little bit. Light vehicles. I think we're going to do that. Okay, okay, mountain attack is negative 6.6, and urban is now negative 48, but jungle is now negative 18. Jungle negative 20, negative mountains negative 14. Let's then take that off, and I want to see what it is with engineers. Hopefully this is okay. Negative 15, so that's a little worse than negative 22. Negative 20, negative 14. Okay, so that's doing a little better with the mix support in there, which still does some sort of engineering type element. So we still need a headquarters, and that would max out our current slots, though we will research to get an additional slot in time. Okay, that's reasonably good because this will also give some anti-tank element. 9 penetration. Oh, well, no, just more heart attack. It's not really more penetration. Okay. There we go. A little light motorization, some armored cars, I think. Well, okay, let's look. 14 and 20. Those are sort of the two terrains. 14 and 20. It's about the same. I'd rather have the armored cars. It's going to be hardly any more expensive. So and we're going to use fuel for that. So for motorcycles either way. So there we go. We'll do a couple of these. It's going to be sort of elite mountain and attack light type troops. We'll do a couple of those divisions. Get them in the production queue. For southern, but hey, you know, these can work out. You know, we got mountains and jungles down here. And we have a bunch of already elite light infantry that are going to be good at jungles anyways, but sort of a bit more of a punch to a few. Okay, well, okay, yeah, we're gutting ourselves on this attack, so let's be a little bit more smart and take the major defeat now instead of pushing in. We're going to have a major victory here. That's going to be a major victory. I don't know if we're going to get the major victory modifier thingy, but it will be a major victory once we take it. Okay, yeah, let's look at terrain. Okay, most of my advances are into the mountains either way. Yes, you're counterattacking, but we stopped before we were entirely gutted. Support this attack. Now here. Well, let's come across here. And you support them. And you guys can support them. Oh, stop that. Okay, that didn't last long, did it? Okay, you guys are across that river. Just gonna look at terrain types. You come down into there. So you guys attack into there. And you guys can support that. Okay. Industrial zone is ready. Okay. Cool. Finland, we give them money for fuel. No, we are building up our money, though that wasn't as big a hit, but we're still building up our money. Okay, these guys are counterattacking there, so that means we're going to counter... Oh, pause. We're going to counterattack here. And when will they get to? 9 hours. Support the attack there. Okay, recon unit communications have advanced. They can talk back to their command. Yeah, we're gonna stop that and switch it to something else here. Okay, yeah, we'll do that. It's getting a little behind. And infantry support weapons. Let's see, yeah, engineers, we want to do that. And we've won here. Great. Communist guerrillas, okay. Damn commies. Oh good, they're now attacking as well. Yeah, if we can get there, that'll give us a nice new... That's sort of a big super province, I guess. Nice new little pocket. Okay, well... if they get across there... That'll close that. That'll come down here. These guys can come down here. Good. Keep moving forward. And the infantry tanks. Yep. They can join that fight. And ground attack tactics. Good. We'll let that continue. Medium artillery upgrade advances. I believe that's here. Yes, good. Well, let's look at some more air. Cluster bomb. Oh, that'd be great. Let's do that. Okay, the Changku Feng incident. I don't think I've ever heard of this. We'll see. On July 6, 1938, the Japanese Kwangtung Army intercepted and decoded a message sent by the Russian commander in the Postyet region to the Soviet headquarters in Khabarovsk. The message recommended that Russian soldiers be allowed to secure previously unoccupied high grounds west of Lake Khasan. Within the next 2 weeks, small groups of Soviet border troops then moved into the area and began fortifying the mountain. Conflict started on July 15th when the Japanese attaché in Moscow demanded removal of Soviet border troops from Bezimaya, blah, 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 blah. To the west of Lake Kazan in the south of, not far from Vladivostok, demand was rejected. Asked the Soviets to retire their troops. Okay, so I hadn't really heard of that. Okay, I'm guessing that's the lake. They said something about Vladivostok. So, was that no? I don't know. But that, hills, flat, hills. Okay, well, we're gonna move to here. Oh, we do have, yes, infrastructure situations. Okay, so we can't even, we can go there, so we're going to go there. That's just one unit. Okay. They've occupied this, so let's send these guys over here as some sort of reinforcements. These guys, let's look at, yeah, well, don't know. Okay, interesting. Yeah, I don't specifically remember hearing anything about that, but yes, of course, I did know, like I was saying in previous episodes, about mainly in talking about, well, anti-tank guns, sorry, and I got sort of, the Japanese knew the Soviets had armor. I just, like I say, whether maybe it was their experience showed that they, against the lighter Soviet tanks, they didn't need them. Not that they wouldn't be desirable, but that they didn't need them. Yeah, I think, yeah, that looks good. Or whether, because I would have said the experience would have showed that you do want them, you do need them. But maybe not. Maybe sometimes things go relatively well and you think you don't, oh, you know, it's working fine. Nice to haves, but not. Except, now, what the hell is... Oh, this was a communist guerrilla breakout. That's why they lost the terrain territory. Okay, you move to support them there. And you guys, air interception. Again, because I know we have new viewers coming on all the time. If you do air superiority, your units will start flying around here. And that may be the best, and I sort of kind of think it's the best for dealing with the enemy air units. But it burns a lot more fuel, where air interception will go after spotted enemy units, though, air units. But it will also keep, like, if it sees a unit that lands here, it'll keep going back and forth, like doing sort of air superiority over the province and burning more fuel. So I've just, with Germany, got used to using air intercept to keep the, oh, looks like we overran the garrison unit. Good. There you go. You come back to there and you come back that way. So I'm just gotten used to using it that way, so that's what I'm going to continue doing. I don't think it's bad or wrong to use it on air intercept, but just keep it in mind, particularly for fuel consciousness. Okay, well, don't know if I should push further deeper just yet, so we will support this attack. There we go. I'm glad I brought the railway gun up to here. I do believe that that is helping out. We haven't got to it yet, of course, but there we are. Notice this green, and it is actually not at the most front of the line, but it is there. And pounding. Okay, they only have one unit that is basically disorganized, still in reserves, and everything else is fighting in the front lines. And good, we are here. He will be cut off if he is left here, so he is going to attack there. Okay, good. We are crossed, and you're pushing in. Okay. Good. That's a relatively good advance. Let's see. Stop defending. And support that attack there. Iraq, we give them a little money for crude oil. Good. I think we have the transports and both the money to try to get good relations. More rebels everywhere. Okay. I'm not disagreeing with this. Maybe a bit much, but I'm not disagreeing with the idea of it. Okay. You go there. I think you can, with your anti-aircraft guns, deal with them fine. Well. Send Tojo up to deal with those personally. Once you're done, come up that way. Then over there. Use those Chinese collaborators appropriately. Okay, yeah, you're almost there. And we now have more troops here to help out. Okay, infantry anti-tank weapons, very good. And we want to stop that to start these here. Okay, good. And we've won this battle here. Good. Oh, damn. I was hoping we'd take this by the time they got there so they could immediately start marching back. Or just simply by getting here we would take that. No. They're eating through this DI 200, Division 200 pretty quickly, so. And then hopefully those militia will crumble. This is taking too long. I don't dare retreat into the... province. Okay. Okay. More breakouts. Okay, well, at least these guys are going to be able to take them down fairly quickly. You can support. You can attack there. You guys can attack there. You can attack there. You can attack there. And, well, you guys get to come here. We'll deal with this major victory. Where here? Oh, we've been fighting here for a long time. No wonder that would be a major victory. Okay, good. Okay, infantry tanks, yes, you move right in there. Yeah. These guys are easy to kill if you have units nearby. And you're not the AI who wants to do stupid and ridiculous things. Okay, this, we're pushing, but we're just a little too weak. I'm gonna cancel this and come down here. So, come down here. Just a little too much, and I'm a little worried still about over here. I think we're gonna win, but not liking it. Okay, you guys come to here to hold that province. And I sort of kind of think we're more, well, I was going to say more or less done with invasions, but no, I sort of kind of do think we're done with some invasions. So let's send you up that way. We could use, well, we may do more, but, and if we don't push, well, we could push in and knock these guys out. That would be useful. Okay, these guys are advancing. They can support that attack. Let's move and let's look at terrain. Okay, yeah, into the mountains. Okay. Yeah, these guys can come there. Oh, 62 already, great. They're eating them down. Okay, they're coming to there, so let's... Are there any particular... No, not particular places. But you can come to there. Oh, those are just light tanks and armored cars. Well, yeah, they're in jungle. You try them on. Good. And we give them money for fuel. No, thank you, Portugal. Oh, come on. I've been expecting you just to collapse at any moment. You stop attacking. You join in. Okay, you come down and get into this fight down here. Oh, you're already here. Okay. You join in it too. You can support the attack. No support. Armored cars, cavalry, good fast moving unit. If you've noticed, I've kept the units that would be adding river penalties out of this attack. I think it's helped. But let's add in you. You're okay. You're definitely good. You're just barely okay. You were pulling out of the line. And let's look up here. Okay, we're pulling you out. Oh good, even improving still. Okay, good. In the US, we give them money for crude oil. No, we're not going to give you all of our money for crude oil. It does help a lot, though. Yeah, we'll do that. And let's see if we can sell some more supplies. And yes, we're going to look. It doesn't look like we'll find too many others who we could sell. Ireland? You've got money, you could use some supplies. Yeah, you want some Japanese goods. Maybe even some Chinese goods. France, so you've got money and you need supplies. Nope, you don't like us enough. Come on, Chile, let's... No. Okay, well, Belgium? No. Okay, US. I'm just figuring we're going to get embargoed at some point from the US. So, trying to make other arrangements as well. Good. Okay, anti-tank upgrade, very good. That I think was the mobile one. But we need to do the infantry upgrade. Yeah. Well, you keep coming here and go there. Oh, never mind, you just hold the border. You're gonna take too long to get there. Now, since we're on Asia right now, and I follow a few Twitter accounts from various parts of the world, and one account I didn't follow, but somebody that I, do follow liked a tweet and from a famous celebrity, or it didn't have a blue check mark by it, so I wasn't absolutely sure it's a famous celebrity. Could be an imposter account, but a celebrity that's known for, and I'll go her good works around, but doesn't really matter who the celebrity is for this point. They were at point, all of the coverage of, I forget, and sorry, I tagged it in the thing, but or hashtagged it, but all of the hurricane that's hitting North Carolina, but no coverage, press coverage of and again I forget the name of it, and it's sort of strange spelling. I believe it starts with an M. Well, typhoon. We call them typhoons over here. The typhoon, hitting the Philippines and doing all kinds of no press coverage of that, or something. And I'm thinking, are you sure about this celebrity woman, who's an American, that there's more coverage for the one hitting the U.S.? Now, and I said in it, in sort of the reply, that I'm sure it'll just be lost in amongst many tens of thousands. But in the U.S., I'm absolutely sure that there's a lot more press coverage, and we've seen a lot of press cover on Twitter of Anderson Cooper up to his waist in water, and 6 feet away, some guy, the camera crew, up to their ankles in water, and he's like standing down in a riverbed or something to make it look dramatic and sort of busting his thing. And I also saw some other footage of some guy who's with the camera and his blue jacket and hood up, and he's like, with a microphone in it, trying to stand up in this wind, and it's just blowing, and he's having trouble, and it's sort of like almost falling over, and he's leaning into it, and he's, whatever. And then you see two people in shorts and t-shirts walk behind him, and you could tell it's windy and they're wet and whatever. But this wasn't, deep water situation at all. But they could just casually walking, like, I don't know. I'm sure it's not probably like drinks in their hands or whatever, walking in the back of the shot. And you could tell it's windy, yeah, but they're not having to lean into it, and they're walking behind it. So the news media is lying about lots and lots of things. But yeah, in the U.S., I'm sure there's a lot more coverage of the hurricane that's hitting the U.S. because it's in the U.S. I said it, but is there more press coverage? No, they were referring to a BBC coverage and hitting the Philippines. One of the accounts that I sort of follow is talking about Shenzhen, and its at least effects are hitting here too. I don't know exactly where the eye is for the typhoon, but there's a lot of media in the Philippines, in Vietnam, in Japan, in China, and probably down in Australia and wherever else, that there may be more media coverage covering this one, but it's mostly here. And so we see this, in my opinion, idiotic type stuff. Okay, you joined the attack there. And so, yes, just like there's more press coverage of, say, the war in Europe, since most Americans come from European countries, than there was press coverage for the war in China, because most Americans don't come from China. So of course there's more coverage. And of course also there are more people that, I don't know, speak English, French, and German in the press corps than speak Chinese or Japanese to effectively cover it. So yeah, it's not necessarily some big conspiracy or don't care about it. It's sort of the locality and the connections of the viewers. I try to stay informed. Don't always succeed about things, but I try to. And I would love And I do watch some of the BBC, and I do watch some of the German Deutsches Welle in English and a few things like that. I probably should watch more of some of that to try to get an international coverage, but both of those things, because BBC America doesn't cover very much and it's not on very often. But also it's slanted left. I would love some good coverage of things. These guys are doing well and are destroying him, but well, maybe they'll get that province back once. Okay, let's try to send you up this way as quickly as possible. Combat medicine has advanced. Very good. That is up under nation, I believe. Yes. Let's look. Do we have a... Yeah, special forces upgrade branch that we want to do, and then we want to do paratrooper activation and many other great things. But I want to thank you for watching. I want to thank you for liking the videos. It helps both me and you. Tells YouTube what you want to see. And it promotes my content up. Tells YouTube that it's good content. So I really do appreciate it when you like the videos. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. Love to see you around more often. As well as please post lots and lots of comments, questions, corrections, suggestions, whatever it may be. See you next time for more Hearts of Iron.